My name is Kristen Kirk, and for ISM this year, I have decided to study graphic design under the mentorship of Ryan Chen. I know we all know that one person who's good at literally everything they do. They're in every AP class, every school event, and every school club, and yet they still manage to function as a normal human being. I, for one, am not that person. In fact, throughout my entire high school career, I found it very difficult just to maintain an average B in a class. And it wasn't because I was stupid, and it wasn't because I was a slow learner, or that I didn't try. It was because I was a visual learner. From a very young age, we're all taught to learn one very specific way. And because I found this difficult to do, I had to come up with different strategies in order to be successful in school. One way was by linking the material we were learning in class to a picture I drew. I would always be doodling on the sides of my papers so that I could link the two and so that I could comprehend the material better. There's a quote I like by Albert Einstein that reads, "I have no special talent, I am only passionately curious." This quote followed me throughout my entire ISM journey, and it reminded me of the fact that we are not born with talent. We create it ourselves. Through hard work and dedication, we can achieve almost anything we set our minds to. And from the beginning of ISM, we are taught that what you put into ISM is what you're going to get out of it. So going into this class, I made sure that I was going to put every ounce of hard work and dedication that I could into this class to make this year exceptional. I wanted to make this ISM year something meaningful and something that I'd be proud to share with all of you now. ISM not only teaches us about our field, but it also allows us to be prepared for the real world. It allows us to gain confidence and skills in things we didn't even know we needed, like public speaking. In the very beginning of ISM, I was terrified to speak in front of my ISM class of 8 people. Even before then, on the very first day of school, we had to give a 3 to 5 minute speech. And now that seems like nothing, but then I was terrified. I had never given a speech before in my entire life. So doing that was really daunting to me. But even though it was the worst speech I've ever given in my entire life, I was able to grow from that and honestly become a better public speaker. Even though I'm not an amazing one now, I would venture to say that I have grown a lot in public speaking and my confidence in that as well. Another thing ISM teaches you, not only in confidence, but is about the opportunities that ISM gives you. At the age of only 17, I was able to sit down and have a conversation with 5 graphic designers about their field and their journey through graphic design. The first research interview I went on was with Miss Emily Holt. She is a freelance designer in Uptown Dallas. I met with her on Beltline in early September with another ISM student by the name of Andrew Woodward, who was also studying graphic design. We met her and we were a little intimidated, to be quite honest. This is the first person we had ever researched and interviewed about graphic design. And not only that, but we were dressed in all formal attire, and she was dressed in just a t-shirt and jeans. Now, I know this may seem like nothing to you, and the fact that we were doing the right thing, but we forgot the main fact in that graphic designers are very creative people, and that it made her really uncomfortable in the fact that we were dressed up and she wasn't. But she also reminded us of the fact that she was a freelance designer, meaning she isn't working with an agency, and so she doesn't work with this professional and business-like group on a day-to-day basis. She meets and does all of her clientele herself. And I didn't realize that in the beginning, and that freelance and agency design are 2 completely different things. In freelance design, you have to be 100% confident in your work. And in an agency, you can get critiques from everyone around you, and it helps you grow as a graphic designer. She also told me about the fact that she chose to be a freelance designer because she didn't like creating for other people. She wanted to create artwork for herself. And that might seem kind of selfish, but if you're creating artwork for yourself, you're really getting to do something you're happy and proud of doing. And that really interested me. However, for me, I would like to be in an agency so that I can get that sort of camaraderie and that experience in working in a business-like and professional group. The second research interview I went on was with Mr. Zach McKimmons. He was a print designer who works at Minutemen Press in Uptown Dallas as well. He was the one who taught me about the importance of field notes. And if you don't know what field notes are, They're pretty much a staple notebook that all graphic designers carry around with them. They're a dotted page notebook, and it helps us wireframe whenever we're creating websites, or helps us letter, or helps us do all of these things that we didn't actually know we needed to know how to do until you actually get into the field. So he actually gave me and made me a field notes notebook, which I still use to this very day. He also reminded me of the fact that graphic design is always changing. There is a traditional version of graphic design and there's a modern version of it. There's two very different sides to it, but I happen to lean towards the more modern version and the newer and more innovative side of graphic design. And Zach McKimmons happened to lean toward the more traditional feel of graphic design, and it felt a little more, I wouldn't say outdated, but it was the older version of it. And some people really enjoy that. It's all about preference. And that's something I also didn't realize as well, is that graphic design is more about perspective and how you view things from one person to right, and there's no right or wrong way when it comes to design. The third research interview I had was with Mr. Mac Hanning. I met him at Publicist Hawkeye in downtown Dallas, and if you ever get the chance to go to downtown Dallas, you have to go to Publicist Hawkeye building. It is one of the most amazing places I think I've ever been. Whenever I met with him, he gave me a tour around Publicist Hawkeye, and it was amazing the amount of camaraderie I felt there. Everyone was shaking my hand and inviting me, and it was such a welcoming place, and I instantly felt like Mac Hanning would have been my mentor. That wasn't until I met Ryan Chen, but I'll get to him in just a second. Mac Hanning was the person who showed me more about the agency lifestyle and how getting constructive criticism can really help you in design. Unlike Emily Holt, she wouldn't have gotten that sort of constructive criticism that Mac Hanning gets from the rest of his group. In a team, whenever you're in an agency, you can get people's opinions, and it helps you grow as a graphic designer and get that experience that you really need. Now, for my fourth interview, as I said before, I met with Ryan Chen, who is my mentor currently. I met him at 1418 Coffee House in downtown Plano, and he was the only one who actually brought a sketchbook, and we actually sketched together. Our research interview also, what I thought was going to last about an hour, lasted about 3 hours. He really taught me about the different types of design, whether it be in package design, print design, or web design. He actually studied in art education and graduated from UT Austin. UT Austin is the place I actually really thought I was going to go until I visited them, the campus, a couple weeks ago, and realized it really wasn't for me. However, it was interesting to have a mentor that had a background in art education. Knowing this, I realized that he would be a great candidate for a mentor because he would understand how to teach me as a student. As well as being able to teach, he also had a background in most parts of design. He had done package design before, print design, and web design before. He worked in a place called Brain Quarry, which works with marketing and branding, and he also worked at Alchemy, which he worked as a UX UI designer, which is user interface and user experience design. And both of these really interested me, and seeing that he was a jack of all trades in all parts of design really interested me and was the main reason why I chose him as my mentor. However, my research interviews didn't stop there. I had a fifth and final research interview with Justin Childress. Justin Childress really surprised me, actually. I met him in downtown Dallas as well, in a place he calls the Office. He calls it the Office because their entire team rented out a house in downtown Dallas and turned it into an office. This was really, really interesting to me because it showed me how creative graphic designers are and how the environment that they work in impacts them so greatly. I saw that by just creating this simple house and turning it into an office, it allowed so much inspiration to flow throughout the house and give each and every designer a new perspective every day. Justin Childress also really taught me about the philosophy and history of design and how design is impacted by the things and events around us. I actually did an in-depth study of this and found out that history and design coincide with each other, and that throughout each decade we can see design change according to the history and what was going on in the time period. For example, in the early 1910s and 1920s, and even 1930s, we can see a lot of the graphic design entailing propaganda, red, white, and blue colors, and trying to enforce people to join the army. And this is all because of World War II and World War I, and just that sense of nationalism in the country. And I thought that was really, really amazing in that graphic design is not only impacted by one certain thing or one certain perspective. It's about the entire country and the feel and the time period of that time as well. Going into this, this actually led into my first semester of ISM, where we did an in-depth research of our field, and we really started understanding what we wanted to go into. So, the first question I asked myself is, what is design? And in the very beginning of ISM, I didn't really understand what it meant. What is design? I asked myself that question several times, and for the longest time I thought it was just about visual communication through pictures. And while that might be true for a lot of design, what I actually found out was that graphic design is such a broad topic, it's hard to just encompass all of it in one career. So I started understanding the different branches of design, and how there was package design, print design, web design, all these different things, and suddenly I had to take a step back and try and figure out which one I wanted to go into. So that is also why I chose Ryan Chen as my mentor, is because he taught me a little bit about each and every one of them, and throughout my entire ISM journey, and throughout my entire creation of my original work and my product, it has allowed me to kind of discover what I want to do and what I want to major in college, and what I really want to do as a career. So, going into this, I didn't know that, and because I do know that now, it's opened my eyes to what I really want to focus on. One thing I didn't realize at the time either was the different types of learning. I didn't realize this until my freshman year whenever I started drawing and linking those pictures so I could comprehend the material, that not everyone was a visual learner like me. Everyone has a different way of learning as well. People can be either auditory learners, meaning that they learn best whenever someone's directly speaking to them, a visual learner like myself to where we have to see it to understand it, or people who have to have hands-on experience and have to actually do what they're being taught so that they can understand that as well. And I wanted to make sure that this would feed into whatever I want to do to my product, because design is supposed to be about communication, and you can't communicate to everyone if everyone learns a different way. I thought that was really, really interesting as well, and going into that, I wanted to make sure that that was a prime aspect of my product. Another thing I wanted to study was the different subconscious learnings that we have. So, one thing I learned about graphic design is that there are multiple different aspects that we see every single day, and we don't actually understand why it's designed or how it affects us. One thing is actually the hierarchy of text. So, if you've ever realized that if you ever open up a textbook and you see that there's a headliner, there's usually a sub-headliner, the main body of the text, and maybe small captions. Have you ever sat there and wondered why they're all different sizes? Other than just being easier to read, what's the purpose of it? Why not just make it all one font, all one style of writing, and all one size? Well, I actually learned this in a paper that my mentor allowed me to read, and it was about how the hierarchy of text affects us subconsciously, and how just by seeing that there's a bigger headliner in the text, we get our eyes instantly focus on that, and that's something we're going to remember. So we tend to learn and memorize the headlines of things before we actually memorize the bodies and the captions of things whenever we're opening to a textbook and reading a long passage of text. So as graphic designers, we have to take this into consideration. Whenever we're creating, let's say, a web page, we have to make sure that what we are bolding and what we are making a headline has a purpose, and what we're doing actually has an effect on the subconscious, and we have to understand what that means. So this actually leads into my original work, to where my original work was the study of color theory. Now I know what you may be thinking, you were just talking about hierarchy of text. How does this make any sense? Well, they're both subconscious things. You see, in the hierarchy of text, it's something we don't notice until somebody explains it to us, much like color theory. Color theory is about how our emotions and colors actually coincide. And I didn't realize this in the beginning either. But color theory is actually one of the most amazing things I've ever learned, and I'll give you an example of it really quick. Whenever you're very young and your parents tell you not to touch a hot stove, what's the first thing you're going to do? Probably touch the hot stove. But once you touch it and you end up seeing that it's burning you, you instantly link that emotion of danger and possibly even food, because it is on a stove, and warmth, all with the colors of that stove. So you may link it with reds or yellows or oranges. Now, instantly at that young age, you now have these colors and these emotions that link together. Graphic designers come into this part and they understand that you are linking these together, and so they're going to use and incorporate those same colors into their designs. For example, have you ever looked at most of the fast food restaurants around here? Take a look at Wendy's, Cane's, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. What do they all have in common? The colors of their logos. They all either have reds or yellows or oranges all in their designs. And it's because we know and that graphic designers understand that these colors resemble and link with people their emotions of hunger and urgency and caution and wanting us to just get in and get fast, having it quick and speedy, but also something that we love and that we want. Graphic designers understand this and they use this to their benefit. So in my original work, I actually conducted a survey of over 100 people, and I asked them about questions about color theory that they may or may not have even known. I asked them questions about whether or not they linked a certain emotion with a certain color and how that affected branding. One question in particular I asked was, it was actually a game. I'm sure you've all played it before. It was whenever you zoom up on one image and you try and decipher what that image is. So I took two very popular logos that everyone knows, the PepsiCo logo and the Lego logo. I made the Lego logo in full color, and I made the PepsiCo logo in grayscale. And I asked people to identify both of these logos. And this is what really, really surprised me, is that 98% of people could identify the logo that was in color. However, only 82% of people could identify the logo that was in grayscale. And as a graphic designer, as a marketer, and as someone who wants to promote a company, you have to grab all of your consumers as possible. You have to get the biggest amount of audience that you can. So if you're losing 16% or so of people just due to the colors of your logo, that's a pretty big percentage of people. And losing this amount of people is something that is unnecessary just because of the colors. So my original work really encompassed, does color theory matter? And in fact it does. Because if you are a marketer, if you're a brander, or if you're someone who wants to promote a company, like I said, it is important to make sure that the colors you use have a purpose and have a reason as to why they're a part of your logo. This actually followed me into my final product. Once I asked Ryan Chen to be my mentor, we immediately met the week or so after, and we began kind of finalizing what we wanted to do as our final product. In the early stages, we really were just kind of focusing on what we wanted the big umbrella to be, what we wanted to achieve, and what we wanted to do as a goal or as an end goal in our final product. And we wanted to make sure it had a purpose. What did we want to create that was actually going to be applicable in the real world? So we started researching things that we both had a common passion for. And both of us had a common passion for innovating education. We thought it was something that could be taken to heart and something that could revolutionize what we already have. So we took a look at the FISD page, or the Frisco ISD page, and we saw that it was really outdated. We saw that it actually hadn't been updated since 2007. And because of this, it didn't give the amount of respect to the Frisco ISD page or the ISN page, or just to Frisco in general. So we wanted to make sure that when we rebranded it or redid it, we wanted to give that respect back. So in creating this, we had to do a brand refresh. We had to make a new logo, make a new website name, and wireframe, and start from scratch, basically. Now, this is sounds really, really easy in a way. All you have to do is just rearrange things and add some new color, right? Not at all, actually. There's so much work that goes into just simple aspects like the logo, and some people don't even realize the amount of work that goes into it. For example, the logo we spent several weeks on, because the logo of a company really impacts the whole brand and the personality of your company or your brand or what you're trying to promote. So we started off with that first. We named it Schooled. And I know what you may be thinking, that's kind of a weird name, like why would you call it that? Well, we called it Schooled because it stands for School Education, or School ED. So in that sense, we wanted to make sure that we were taking the school and we're taking education, we're forming them together and creating something that allows for a collaboration between students, teachers, and students as well. We wanted to make it collaborative, we wanted to make it all on one platform, and we wanted to make it easy and efficient. This is the mission statement we had for Schooled. And in doing so, whenever we created this mission statement, it helped us and guided us throughout the rest of our product. We wanted the logo to be something memorable, but something simple enough to where people could identify it from far away. We made it an owl in the form of a speech bubble. And because of this, it allowed for us to communicate the fact that it's something for education because the owl stands for wisdom, whereas the speech bubble stands for communication and a lot of just collaborative between students and teachers and students to students, and we really wanted to make that evident in our product. Also, what we really wanted to do and what we focused mainly on for the bulk of my mentorship was the wireframing of this. Wireframing takes an incredibly long time, and actually putting it into Photoshop and rearranging everything and going back and just basically having to finalize everything time after time again. And this is one thing that Ryan taught me, is that you can spend hours upon hours on one project, and then you can present it to someone and they can say they completely hate it. There's never one right or wrong thing, and it's like I said before, it's all about perspective. So if you pour your heart and soul into something, there's always going to be someone who comes up and says they don't like it and that you will have to change it. So getting attached to your work is something that's bound to happen, but you can't get too attached to it because you know you will have to change it most likely. So although creating this website has been a very difficult road, it has really taught me about what I wanted to do in the future and what I wanted to become. And although this hasn't necessarily been the easiest year of my life in school and is actually extremely stressful, I would not have traded it for the world. ISM has allowed me to create this website, which I never in a million years thought I'd been able to do. And it was all because of the support of my ISM family, my family itself, my friends, and Mr. Wysong and my mentor. Because all of you guys have encouraged me so much and have impacted my lives in ways I can't even imagine. ISM has taught me and allowed me to become someone I never thought I could be. And I really want to thank you all for that. So thank you.